I did not have the time to get this text translated into German, and well, probably you know very well this book, this edition, and this is edition from '79, Identität, and you find here brilliant text, for example, of Dieter Hendrich, with all reference, Wiggins, Quine, Parfit, etc., etc. Yeah. And here you have nothing about collective or group identity, and this is my subject today here. There are 3 photographs here. Yes. This is first one, second one. First one, Bruegel. Second one, you know very well. And third one is this. Yeah. Bruegel also. Yeah. This is 3 grand and perhaps most important visual fantasies of groups in the history of the West. One of the versions of the motif of the Tower of Babel, a drawing Hobbes's Leviathan, and Bruegel the Elder's 1560 Children's Games. This is the name of this one, yeah, of this one. It seems to me that any other image I could show, for example, the day of prayer at Mecca, cars on the bridge, the supporters of Juventus on the stadium terrace, the German national football team with Joachim Löw on the podium this summer in Berlin, or else the student strike at the University of Belgrade, ISIS fighters in the back of a truck somewhere in Syria, etc. Any of these would be but a variation of one of the 3 mentioned constructions of the identity of the group. I ought to explain that the construction of identity, what does it mean to name us, or belong to us, or how ought we utter or write, for example, we are, let us. This is I'm trying to do this. Further, what is a group or social group? It is a question of number, the existence of 2 or necessarily more than 2 persons or things, mutually connected while in the same place. The origin of the word group is Italo-German. Gruppo or gruppo is a knot or a set, while Krupa in the Old Germanic is a fully formed whole, where the idea of circle is important. That means circulation, the form being closed and fully framed. That was the Krupa. I also have to re-evaluate the phrase nichtsoziale Akte. The English translation non-social or antisocial acts probably does not quite capture the meaning, and show that negative acts are directly connected to the group, or better still, to the identity of a group. That is my idea, to connect identity. If we have an identity of a group, we have this imply negative acts or negative social acts. This is not the same. What is the negative acts and this is negative social acts? There is difference. Many of you know well what it is that I have been working on lately, that I'm trying to finish work on a book on theory of institution. I wrote one text that probably some of you knows about we in Heidegger, and one text about corporation last time in Fallenda. And I'm trying to bring together, like for example, Christina I saw this in her essay, trying what, for example, Searle or Tuomela or Margaret Gilbert or Eric Olson have to say Or, for example, Semyon Frank, you have in German this book, where first time, I think, in history of philosophy is thematized the problem of we are. This is the book Die geistigen Grundlagen der Gesellschaft from 1930 from Berlin, published in Berlin. That means attempt how to say what is the pronoun we along this project, analytical, we can say analytical, with some fragments from Sartre, and you can find it in a Being and Nothing, in passage of 3 pages about we, Elias, of course, Norbert Elias, and certain 4 paragraphs by Heidegger from 34. Also, what is the genocidal acts, what is the difference between negative acts and genocide, etc., etc. Now, however, it is my intention to consider the status of the victorious group or winning team, for example, this team of love, or as the status of defeat, which is the same or even better. What is the victory? For example, in the early 19th century, the jurist Erich Kaufmann writes about victorious war as a social ideal. For example, this is a quote for Kaufmann from 1911. Nicht die Gemeinschaft der fallenden Menschen, sondern der siegreiche Krieg ist das soziale Ideal. Der siegreiche Krieg als das letzte Mittel zu jenem obersten Zweck. Why victory? Because probably is a group constituted through victory and thus gains its identity. If there is a victory, is a guarantee of identity. What I am conducting before you today then is a small experiment or attempt to build one section of that and outline a few difficulties. The first of such difficulties could be entirely trivial, but it would appear that in the course of building on an argument about the difference in conduct between a group and a collection of individuals, it turns out that the shift from singular to plural, that means the transformation of a large and total group into multiple groups, means implies the confrontation and presence of negative acts. All 3 images, again, all 3 images, here is, you have Job, known as potestas. You remember this quote. All 3 images are before us simultaneously depict universitas, the word Cicero uses to translate the Greek work all, the whole, or topan, a total and universally all-encompassing group. That means Babylon, Leviathan, Sovereign, and this city, an assortment of children's games filled with children playing this Bruegel here. This is kids. Huh? They also immediately imply the existence of other towers. That is the problem. At the same time, you have the other cities, the other sovereigns, the other towers. If something is this, you can find this in the word universitas. If something is universitas, then it is at once a representation of the whole universe and all of humankind. This is one. We are all at once in the body, for example, of Leviathan, because the sovereign is by definition singular, like in quote of Job. Universitas means that the collective activity and the common goal transform a plurality of elements into an organized collective. That is universitas. That means on one side you have in universitas all universe, and alternately universitas, or an organized group, that means corpus, societas, collegium, etc., does not preclude the existence of other groups absent and often in opposition. On the contrary, that means in universitas you have idea of all and at the same time idea of singular. This is the first difficulty. The first, you can see about universitas you have in German first an incredible important work, Schnorr von Karlsfeld, Geschichte der juristische Person from 33, or Michaud-Quentin, Universitas, Expression du bon vivant communautaire, etc., etc. The second difficulty is the designation of nichtsoziale Akte, problematic for Virgilio and for me, but not mentioned, but never thematized. Thematized it Adolf Reinach's 1911 brief sketch Nichtsoziale und soziale Akte. This text has never been translated into English, despite the intention of Karl Schumann and Barry Smith by publishing his collected works in 89, present Reinach, along with, of course, Austrian philosophy, as the forerunner and actual source of the theory of language games, social ontology, and also subsequently distinction by Austin between performatives and constatives. This small text Reinach writes. I will read this in German. In German is better than in English. Soziale Akte sind Akte, die nicht in sich selbst ruhen. Für soziale Akte wesentlich ist die Voraussetzung eines anderen Subjekts, dem sie sich kundgeben wollen. Die Person, an die sie gerichtet sind, soll Kenntnis davon erhalten. Eine Verbindung zwischen Menschen ist aber nicht direkt möglich. Ausdrücke sind hier also nötig. Die sozialen Akten müssen Ausdruck finden zur Mitteilung an den anderen. Verschiedene Formen stehen hier zur Verfügung. Worte, Gesten. Ein Adressat ist also bei den sozialen Akten nötig. Und zu diesem Zwecke ist eine Erscheinungsform dieser Akte nötig. For example, das Gebet ist ein sozialer Akt. Das erste ist dabei vorhanden, das zweite nicht. Der religiöse Mensch, zweite nicht soziale. Der religiöse Mensch macht die Voraussetzung, dass der Adressat des Gebets ohne Erscheinungsform vernimmt. Darum ist also ein stilles Gebet möglich. Jeder soziale Akt gründet in seinem Erlebnis, das nicht soziale Akt ist. Frage, for example, setzt nicht Überzeugung, Versprechen den Willen voraus, dass durch den Adressaten der Versprochene geschieht. If social relations, this is quote, the Reiner, if social relations are constituted by way of social acts, soziale Verhältnisse konstituieren sich durch soziale Akte, negative acts would be those acts that break the knot or knots or connections between the elements of the group or groups. It goes without saying that these are violent acts, but also private acts, such as hatred, for example. When I'm hating, I'm in the field of private, and this is negative act. I quote again Reinach. Fragen ist ebenfalls ein Akt, ein inneres Tun des Subjektes. Intentional ist es auch, dazu aber noch etwas Drittes. Das führt uns in eine ganz neue Klasse von Akten hinein, die Besonderes wichtig für das Zivilrecht sind. Sie haben ein soziales Moment, Richtung auf ein anderes Subjekt. Diese Richtung ist nicht Intentionalität in Bezug auf ein Subjekt. Eine Frage ist aber intentional in Bezug auf ihren Gegenstand. Hierdurch sind diese Akte auch von Hass, Neid unterschieden. Sie haben, Hass und Neid, haben eine Richtung an jemanden über etwas. Neid teilt sich dem anderen Subjekt nicht mit, wenden sich nicht an ein anderes Subjekt. Für die Frage dagegen ist wesentlich, sich richten auf jemand, eindringen in ihn, sich kundgeben. Es lässt sich noch eine ganze Masse anderer solcher Akte anführen. Bitte, Befehl, Antwort, Versprechen. Dies ergibt eine Scheidung der Akte. Eine Bitte, Befehl, Mitteilung, Frage und sind soziale Akte, eine zweite nicht soziale Akte. Was ist nicht soziale Akte? On the contrary, a lie, for example, lie, hatred, is it lie, a lying, is it private or not? A lie could potentially be a social act, although private lies could be non-social, and in a sense a private lie would be, in one case, nonsense. You can see Charles Travis is preparing a text entitled Private Lies, although I do not know what will come of it. For example, is a private lie the one that is uttered to someone close, for example, wife, brother, parent, child, psychoanalyst, confessor, etc., but not in the family circle, because in a family circle this is not private, because the family being the primary group. For example, if the mayor of a city, one mayor of the city, probably this city, constantly displays to his constituents what their city will soon look like, and puts up a bunch of billboards of that future city to that end, the citizens, this is the utopia, or we can say lie or fiction, the citizens' trust could be increased for the next elections, and the connection between citizens enriched by the idea of common belonging to said future city. Further, what status would we give to, for example, telepathic or empathic acts? Are they acts at all? Is reciprocity another feature of the social act? That means social acts are acts symmetrical or with reciprocity, giving mutual, for example, if the hate or mutual hatred or mutual envy a place in the space of social relations. Is it possible to does the mutual is the essence of the social acts? That was the second difficulty, and the third difficulty concerned the destruction. Yeah, you can see here also, but first here, destruction. Yeah, destruction and perishing of a group, which are, as you know, part of these visual strategies. The tower collapses. German team is worse today than yesterday. The sovereign is dismembered. Bari football team is bad. And the city in which most are playing each to themselves is in jeopardy and would be difficult to defend from invasion. Apart from the basic question about the transience of the group and the contingent identity of a group, this is contingent identity of those group. Lest we forget the very beginning of Kripke's text, Identity and Necessity, I quote, how are contingent in identity statements possible? A similar question that can be found in Parfit. The problem of necessity remains. Each group must be swiftly dismantled and transformed into a different form or construction. And my premise is that if negative acts are necessary for the existence of a group or the group's identity, or if they are impossible to exclude, making the group unjust by definition, that means group is unjust by definition, then the duration of a group is measured or can only be understood through negative acts. It seems that at this point I truly cannot establish a clear connection. This is my problem, and that's why this text is just a draft, I'm trying to do something. The clear connection, I have not clear connection between the identity of a group, its duration, and those nichtsoziale Akte or non-grouping acts. But I'm certainly interested in what it is that devastates a group that also makes it possible in the first place. That means something which is in the group, which devastates a group, also gives possibility to the existence of a group. How can a group produce such negative social acts or antisocial acts, or if you want, genocidal acts or evil actions? What is or inhuman acts? Not how are they produced by individuals. This is not my question. Not how the evil actions are produced by individuals, but by individuals alongside other individuals who embody a collective identity. You can find this individu collectif, the 92 phrase coined by Vincent Descombes, with which he tries to thematize the possibility of the individual to also be the collective. How is it possible that one individual be also in the same time the collective? Do these acts impact members or portions of a single group, or only a different group? Is it necessary that one group implies the other group? I would like to explain the relation of, for example, you can see different problem of morality of an individual to morality of a group. Morality of an institution, this is one work of Scanlon which is not finished. Does the existence of one group or one we necessarily imply the existence of another group and their confrontation? Or does the survival of one group mean the violation of rules? This is much more important. Does the survival of one group mean the violation of rules and omission of morality? Survival, that means staying alive, could also actually be defined as victory, raising the question of whether, and you can find this in one of the last texts of Michael Walzer, good guys can't win at war. That means you have to break the rules if you want to win. And does the existence of a group, the existence of we, or existence of institution necessarily contain a portion that is always contaminated and external to law? One of the most important premises of the immorality of a group ought to refer to its identity, beginning here from one of the main criteria of identity. What is the main criteria of identity? To give a name, naming, name giving. Name is guarantee of identity. I would like to attempt to defend the thesis that the construction of identity, I repeat this all the time, or the name of a group is the condition or beginning of the process of confrontation with another group or another entity. Such a group of such groups can then issue negative acts whose goal is, of course, exclusion, and then the destruction of a portion or the entire group, like here. Or you can, sometimes parts of a group commit negative social acts or non-social acts in the name of the group as a whole, or for the sake of the group's survival. For example, it is possible for several members of a group to immorally or negatively act in order to paradoxically ensure the morality of a group as such. In the primordial. This is primordial scene of the first institutional action, Tower of Babel. This is first. It seems that the constitution of the identity of a single group, those group, the name ought to join and glue the portions of a group, is in direct connection with its future dissolution. And you can, in Genesis 11:8, 11:9, you Rosenzweig-Buber translation, you can find this: Aufbauen wir uns eine Stadt und einen Turm, sein Haupt bis an den Himmel, und machen wir uns einen Namen, dass wir nicht über die ganze Erde zerstreben. And the last one quote is from the same 11:9, und zerstorben von dort hat sie über die ganze Erde zerstorben and zerstrieben. In Italian, venite, costruiamoci una città, una torre la cui cima tocchi il cielo, e facciamoci un nome, poi non disperderci per tutta la terra. And in the Serbian, of course, come on. In the Serbian, poslije rekoše: hajde da sazidamo grad i kulu koji će vrh biti do neba, da stečemo sebi ime, da se ne bismo rasijali po zemlji. I kraj 9. zato se prozva Vavilon, jer ondje pomete Gospod jezik cijele zemlje i odande ih rasu Gospod po svoj zemlji. In the scene of the Tower of Babel, the scene of institutionalization, one group of people comes from the desert, attempts to create a contre-institution or counter-institution. Never mind what is this. When I said contre or counter-institution, that means to place something simultaneously. This was the idea. There is no idea is to place something simultaneous and parallel with the institution of the cosmos and the world made by Adonai. At its origin, counter or contra or confrontation actually means parallel and next to, not against. There is no here in this institutional big institutional project nothing which is where we can, this is against. This is something which is beside. This is something which is parallel. Without delving into the complicated and of course much analyzed Genesis 11:1-9, I would like to point out that aside from various linguistic operations, technological actions, because those group works together finding new material for building. You can see probably you remember, but please read it. They found something new. They are in process of experimentations. This is really architectural project, new material for building. Since there can be no new institution without new technology, and you can see this in this passage. The way this group continuously mobilizes itself is through a call. They're calling each other all the time by using the vocative case. In English, the vocative is constructed by saying, let us break the bricks, let us build. You have several times in this passage this calling to readiness and attention. Without this imperative, there is no group. This vocative is what we can call pre-normative, and the culture of a group. That means the group is cultivated and cared for through this call, intercalling, mobilizing and moving, total mobilizing, if you want use this syntagma. That means we evoke and provoke each other constantly. The first normative moment in the weakest sense of the word, and the institutional moment par excellence is found in this verse 11:4, when the group decides to have a company, an architectural studio, or bureau, or corporation, or its own identity. That, and quote in English, and they said, the members of the group, let us build ourselves in a city, let us build ourselves a city and tower with its top in the sky, and make ourselves a name to be scattered over the face of all the earth. Without dwelling on the text and any complications regarding idolatry, let me gently and without pretensions point out that this institutional gesture could just as well belong to cult, to culture, or habitude. We are dealing with a group becoming a group, developing and being cared for, and to normativity. That means we are dealing with an act that binds all its group members, calls them to remain in one place together. In order for the group to require its identity or its name to be great, the greatest possible, a tower with its top in the sky, it is not necessarily for the group to be essentially different from other groups. As a group, as a corporation, or as a company, it is competing with other groups or cultures. This is this two universitas levels or positions, a part of large marketplace, but is not necessarily at war with them. A group does not exclude other groups or cultures of grouping, nor should the group as counter-institution be destroyed immediately in the way that happened to this group of Masons many centuries ago. What is we, or what are we? This is a solution of Erik Olson, or who is that we? You can probably remember those four paragraphs from Heidegger 34 seminar. He's trying all the time, he's in position like this, because he's a lecturer, here the same, he's trying all the time to found the we, and then folk, and then selbst, very good place from this position, because just leader has a face, like here. There is no face of the others. He said in this seminar, fragment 10, paragraph 10, 34 seminar, der Mensch ist ein Selbst. Wir ist der Mensch, ein Selbst. Wir ist ein Selbst. Wir. Wir sind wir, also wir sind wir. Wir, die Fragende. But problem is just he is questioning, not, it's impossible that the group questioning in the same time but this is my problem. This difficulty or impossibility of speaking from the position of we, for we, to be the subject of speech and action, which is why it is entirely legitimate to objectivize we with the question, what is we? Could be what holds our intention for a moment when the PowerPoint presentation features one of these images. In saying this, I have used the word attention. For example, look at this, attention, and the phrase our attention, calling to all of us, all of you, to look and think together about what is on the screen. When we all look at this image together, we affirm what is known as a collective intentionality. Finally, I use the imperative, the first person plural of the imperative, which obliges myself as well as all of you to work, for example, now in this second here together. Let us now together look, for example, at the screen with the image of Bruegel, the Elder's children's games from 1560. Only after uttering this imperative, let us look in the fragment from Genesis on building the Tower of Babel, there is a institutional action because of such imperatives. And at the moment when we all look at this image or this reproduction together, myself along with all of you, it is possible for each one of us to utter the following words in the present tense. And this quote is, we are looking at the Bruegel painting. That was the same method. This is not an analytical method, it's stupid to say. This is Heidegger method. And social ontology is a German construction, not today. It passed many years, etc., etc. However, each one of us can not only say we are looking or let us look, but can also utter the words I am looking at the Bruegel painting. In Jean-Paul Sartre, idea was that we, for Sartre, is constituted by collective attention when we all look in the direction of a situation of access. And he gave the example of a road. For example, we are on the terrace of one hotel, and on the road accident happening suddenly, and drawing the attention of all persons present. And then we have a group, we have a we. The significant difference between these two possibilities occurs if we ask who is excluded when uttering the statement I am looking, or when I said I am looking, and when we are looking, when I am saying I am looking, we are looking, who is excluded? In the former, I am looking, like Heidegger does, I exclude all who are not myself. Whereas in the latter, we are looking, I am excluding only myself. In the sentence, we are looking, the fact that I too am looking at a painting while uttering this is only implicitly taking into consideration. Where is the problem? Because it is always an I, and that only an I can utter the pronoun we. You can find this in Benveniste, and Derrida repeats this all the time. C'est toujours moi qui dis nous. C'est toujours un je qui énonce nous. These kinds of assertions are completely lacking in performative power. That means, and we could call them performative simulacra, this kind of constative with we. Either way, although many of you are not at all looking at a painting when I'm uttering the statement we are looking at a painting, and although this we is really a highly fantastical fiction, it seems anyway that the power of this constative, and that is the Heidegger proves this, is far greater than, for example, the performative protocols of a group of soldiers who repeat out loud all together in the first person the words to an ode, or for example, choir in which all sing and recite a single text. What is that Bruegel has done here? Bruegel, and what is not a group? Bruegel placed before us a collection of all kinds of children's games he knew, many of which are known to us today. We find hundreds of different games. Some are indeed collective, many more are individual games played by little paint people of differing or indeterminate gender. As you can see, all these games take place in a city, publicly, in a city square, in one place at once, but they appear to be each to itself. In this group and is this ensemble of activities sufficient to recognize this is a group of children playing in this city? Does the content of the painting meet the sufficient conditions for these individuals to construct a collective, or with alias, no but alias, via Identität or via Ich balance. Can this situation be at all described by the sentence "we are playing" or "a group of children is playing"? There is a difference between British and American English in the use of the word "group" in a sentence. For example, namely, where British English would put the plural, for example, Chelsea are currently the best, Chelsea are currently the best team in the Premiership, or the BBC are being completely irresponsible in their reporting. In American English, this would be rendered in the singular. For example, this team is currently in terrific form, or Fox News is sensationalist. Thus, the phrase "a group of children is playing" can also be rendered as "a group of children are playing." If the majority of the children is having a terrific time individually, can entertainment or play in this collective or individual at all refer to a group? It seems that this situation is a really good example of how, for the existence of a group, it is not at all decisive that each of the actors be entranced and entirely engrossed in the game, while simultaneously still aware that the rest are also at the same time entirely absorbed or anesthetized in playing, and that they all be aware also simultaneously that they are all playing together, because they are. It's not important. We couldn't find this. We couldn't find here this F-bit. Couldn't find this this consciousness that the group playing together. This is the principal argument for the collective intentionality. The argument about the very complicated phrase collective intentionality is today developed and elaborated through various examples. For example, Jovan yesterday, walking together, Margaret Gilbert, praying, for example, praying together, collective cheering for Juventus's football team, for example, soldiers marching in a unison as a parade, the queue formed of the cinema box office, etc., etc. And it seems to be pulsating in this balancing and equilibration of the consciousness of all the individuals. If several persons conjure spirits together, for example, I don't know in German, evocano spiriti riuniti, in German, zazivanje duhova, conjure spirit together, or masturbate, or are enjoying sex, and if each individually is in trance, and like this, like here, and if they are all together entirely dedicated to a form of expectation or anticipation, it would still be insufficient for the constitution of group or we. For Elias also uses the terms wir Gruppe or wir Gefühle. Of course, despite looking like joint conjuring of spirit could be more efficient than doing so individually, or that individual pleasure can be greater if the pleasure-deriving act is committed simultaneously with others or before others, it is quite clear that in either of these cases there is no communal action of all, or communal benefit, if you want, accepting the potentially greater individual benefit. Let us imagine now an attack on this city of games and toys depicted by Bruegel and the cessation of this great children's game. Let us imagine that the children discontinue their games and begin to work and build walls around the city to protect them from the enemy. If it is possible to divide or separate the children of a city once from others, then it is certainly also possible to regroup them and give them a new identity. The children of warriors and defenders of the city, the children of managers and restorers of the besieged city. Only this collective work and implicitly the identity of the defenders of the city and the constant threat then that their unity will again be dissipated ensure the existence of negative acts. Negative acts. Or conversely, negative social acts that are not present on Bruegel's canvas or are present in a latent way as a private act because they are all in private acts, that means in negative social acts, this is not sufficient for the group. And these are evidence that the group is not yet constituted. Finally, I invite you to imagine a little experiment and speculate why this group of bubble institution or bubble counter institution was destroyed. The result of such an intervention, because God or Adonai or Yahweh or I don't know, that was genocidal act or God, or we can say super instance or super agent, because super agent, you can see in those quotes that he, as you know, he's always contrary to us. He has capability to pronounce your person in we. He never I. He's always we. The result is that the individuals are once again scattered and are playing in the way Petar Bojanić the elder painted them. That is our position. We are playing for themselves, for ourselves, or in a minimal groups, small groups. Small groups exist in a, we can say in a text, the difference between big and small groups, because this is different strategy on protocols you can find in small group or bigger. Here are 4 speculative possibilities why this tower is destroyed. First, was this cooperative and mobilized group where all worked for one another in an attempt to execute a grandiose project, was destroyed because it was insufficiently institutionalized. What does it mean, insufficiently institutionalized? God said this group is insufficiently institutionalized. For example, a sudden appearance of corruption, for example, here. And laziness lowers the efficiency of construction of the project, delaying its completion. That first, for example. Second possibility, was it destroyed because it was a counter-institution, meaning that God's institutional action is completely uncaring and forcibly prevents the appearance of any kind of confronting institution, which is one of the, of course, orthodox or standard interpretations of this event. And third one, I have a 4. Third one, destroyed because this institution was unjust, for example. Roles and canons speak about the unjust institution, or sen, where individuals protest or petition that institution against inequality or hierarchy, seeking equilibration. And God said, finito. And 4 was destroyed, this group destroyed, and this is what I would like to argue in this we can say improvisation, because the amount of negative social acts of this group or its inhumanity was insufficient for its survival. Let me present this last possibility in a more precise and more provocative formulation, taking into consideration 2 premises. The first is, here we should recall the imagined scenario of an attack on Bruegel city, full of children playing and toys, such that the children are forced to work and play together, build the defense walls together, and then even kill all those who are attempting to enter their city and occupy their territory. That institutionality or amount of the institutional of an institution depends, that scenario depends not only on the cooperativeness of the actors, of the kids here, on social acts, on work and technological discoveries that connect them, like in first institutional situation in tower bubble construction, but also on antisocial acts. That means exclusion of layabouts and the destruction of a different group. First, and a group is not only insufficiently institutionalized if it does not lead defensive war, but the group is not, but if it does not break the rules of the defensive war and war in general, in order to conduct a victorious war. That's why good guys can't win. The second premise scrutinizes the first, in that in question the possibility of a single group to simultaneously create both social and negative social acts, in other words, to produce its own and then always temporary ontological stability, and always partially and incompletely destroy another group. And I will conclude this construction by once again formulating the problem, defining the difference of negative and genocidal acts. Genocidal acts, that was, you know very well, that was, we have not any traces except in these several quotes. Is it possible then to produce social and non-social acts, negative social acts at the same time? Is it possible to really to make genocide, to destroy one group? Because we are in position that we must, like a group, produce in the same time social acts and non-social acts between us and in confrontation to the other group. Or is it possible to construct a group which acts genocidally, meaning that it destroys another group or the groupness of the group, and at the same time affirms its own unity and ontological stability? I insist that genocidal acts or negative acts or acts of negative violence are acts that destroys everything which makes a group exist. That means, why social ontology? Where is this ontology? Ontology is just in this place, connections between the members of the group. Glue, in Serlian language, or the it which holds the member of a community together, i.e. the social ontology of the group. But how are social acts alternated with non-social or negative or genocidal acts? I think that this is our task to finish this text of Reinach. We can say simultaneously, while one group is being constituted, another group ought to be falling apart because its part or members have ceased to be held together in that genocidal or in war between the groups, the war for the destruction. How is this possible? To this I have only a preliminary and entirely insufficient answer. This is my last word today. The group is temporary, and its constitution and duration are decided by negative acts. All the while, the repertory of negative social acts itself remains unthematized and, with Adolf Reinach, of course, in question today. Thank you very much. Thank you.